everyone, and welcome to another episode of LunarCRUSH Live. Today we'll be discussing Terra with SJ Park. We'll talk about Terra, review community strategies, and answer your questions. Disclaimer here, again, we do not take payment for our live stream. We're simply bringing on awesome, amazing people and projects that we love and that we're interested in. It also says here, make the point that the community can ask questions and we'll get them in the discussion. So the point has been made. Also, slam that subscribe button, everyone. Pog style, bam. And we'll get some future live streams. We got some fun ones. I see John in the DMs on Twitter there, getting everyone lined up. So I'm excited for everyone that's coming out. So with that, John, what's happening with socials right now on Terra?
A lot. So this is a treat being able to talk about Terra today. I want to start backwards because usually we go over metrics first and maybe who's influential. I think it's important to note that when we look at there's a lot of growth in Luna and all of the social activities that are around it, right? And it's important to note that when the community is ahead of your own owned Twitter accounts, that's a good thing. So when we look at things like Crypto Wizard, number one, 14.2% of their posts are actually about Terra, Luna, the ticker Luna. We got Crypto Kaleo, who I'm probably even saying that wrong. Is it Kaleo or is it Kaleo?
I don't know. You got it.
I don't know. Very, very big influencer talking about it. Not to, ignore KSI Crypto, which is huge, big influencer. Then we got Dread Bongo, we got Nicholas Flamel, and then you have Terra, and you have their account. So to have 5 big influencers ahead of you is really, really good. It's a strong thing. And when we look at what's been going on over the last 6 months, so we can see that there's a 735% gain, which if you just consider the rest of the market, that is an enormous gain at this point. And remember, that's down. It's $7 right now. That's down from it was up to $22. So the market's had a beating across the board, but the fact that it's still up 735% says so much. Still almost a $3 billion market cap, putting it at the 36th biggest cryptocurrency out there, about 287 million in 24-hour volume. And it still has a long ways to go in terms of being on more exchanges. 419.34 million circulating supply. So those are some of the standard market metrics. When we look at some of the social activity, it's really, really impressive. So we see that social volume, which measures the number of mentions, we're looking at 6 months right now. So we can see that those mentions have gone from a low of 202 a day, which I believe is right in here on January 2021, here to as high as all the way over here to almost 10,000 mentions in a day. When we look at that on a 6-month basis, it's an increase of of more than 5,000%. When we look at the engagement metrics, which again, in the middle of a really tough market, we see that social engagement just hit a new high. So even just a few days ago, we see engagement, 15 million social engagements. And what that's looking at is the number of like the depth of the conversations. So when someone tweets about Terra, what kind of depth is there in those conversations, the comments, the retweets, all of that, versus maybe there's a lot of empty posts from, individuals with 2 followers and there's no comments back and all of that. So we're seeing that the conversations are increasing. That's a very, very healthy thing. One of my favorite things to look at on this and all of our data. Another big thing is the number of unique individuals. So we've seen that in the last 6 months, there has been days where there's been only 56 people talking about Terra. And there's been days over 10,000. So you see this huge spike in here, 10,405 that day. That's big. That's really big. So another big thing there. And social dominance. So this measures think of it as all of the social posts across all the coins in the market. It's like a pie. What percentage of that pie does Terra have? It's kind of like market cap for social. And we see that it's gone from as low as 0.03% to as high as 0.84% of all social posts on a given day. So a lot of increase. And when we look at another thing too, correlation rank. So this measures how correlated the price moves are to social activity. And we see that it's averaged a 78. It's been as high as 100. So 100 out of 100, correlation on social activity to the price movements, that's huge. When we also look at some of those other combined metrics, we have what's called a galaxy score. So that's only looking at Terra, and it's looking at combined social and market metrics, and it's saying, how does it look versus historical performance? So we see that it's still very strong. It's still 74. 74 is bullish. Anything above 80 is very bullish. So it's hard to get 74. And so that's really, really strong. So it's looking really good from a social and a market perspective combined. And then we look at alt rank, which is Terra versus the entire market. So we see that out of the 2,238 qualifying coins that have enough activity to measure, we see that it's ranked 43 on average over the last 6 months. And over the last little while here, even if I look at the last week, see even better. So 39. So, and we're seeing it in the top 10 quite often. We've been posting quite a bit lately. So the activity is really strong. So with that was super exciting just to talk about how much growth there is.
Cool.
So that's a lot. That's unusual. So let's chat about it some more.
All right, let's bring him up. SJ, what's up, my man? How are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're good, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. What do you think about the socials that John just went through right there?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what it encapsulates what Terra has achieved. And I think a lot of what we are about is the community. And at the core of what Terra is doing is building for real world adoption. So I think all of that makes a lot of sense. And I'm a fan of what you guys are creating. And that's some of the ways in which we can quantify our community engagement. So I appreciate that.
Of course, man. Of course. And we always like to start by where you are in the world today. And it looks like you already got some good comments on your haircut here, bud.
I was actually joking about that, but I did get a lighting thing, so I'll take a picture and tweet it out. But
it does look good. Yeah. I have to say.
I'm actually based out of New York, so I was born in Korea, but came to New York, in my youth, and have really been here for most of my life. I'm at a WeWork, and I found an office with a frog painting, so I knew that I had to pick this for our live chat here.
No, I like it. I was commenting before. I said, very nice. I didn't know if it was a drawing or a picture, but it looks great, man. So yeah, we had a little piece in here. We want to know where did Young Alpha come from?
I think that's our intern who manages our social. No, just kidding. our comms person just made that up, and I think I'll go with it. I think Big Alpha is better, but I guess I have to level up to Big Alpha from Young Alpha.
It's cool. It's like the up and coming alpha at all times. It's fresh. It's new. It's different. Yeah. People probably like that.
Life goals.
For sure.
So yeah, man, tell us a little bit, give people, you always want to hear kind of the elevator pitch, or how do you explain, what you're working on, pretty quickly to people, just to get people up to speed on what you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So, for those of you who may not be familiar, my name is SJ. I'm the Director of Special Projects at Terra. And oftentimes the funny comment I get is, what do I do? Because I have a funny title. And it is pretty much what it says. So most of my time is spent on working on internal projects or external projects. As the community may know, we have a lot of internal projects that are being incubated within Terra, but we also have a burgeoning ecosystem that's growing with our community. So, my involvement in some of these projects is really to help it scale and succeed. And then obviously I also have a remit of starting projects on my own. So with the ultimate goal of increasing the TVL of Terra, if you will, I'm glad to be part of Terra and to help projects succeed.
So internally, externally, kind of creating projects and creating ecosystem, whether it's finding new projects and people that want to build, or you guys kind of incubating, creating stuff on your own. It's just an ultimate creative greenfield landscape to grow stuff. Yeah,
I think Doe brought me on initially for kind of doubling the productivity. So, Doe's an amazing builder. He's shipped very successful protocols, and the way that we're thinking about our collaboration is essentially that if I can come on and do what he had done, then we can double our productivity and double the pipeline, if you will, of projects. So that's definitely the goal.
And what kind of projects, when you say you're looking for projects, is there kind of a direction in which, you guys have a little bit of a gate there, or a way that you're investing or looking at different stuff? I mean, what's the direction? What's the strategy right now?
Yeah, so when we look at the growth of the Terra ecosystem, it's really been a pivot, if you will, even over the past few months. So Terra launched in 2018, and just to give a little bit more background into Terra for viewers who may not be familiar, we are a suite of stablecoins built on our own native blockchain. We're built on Cosmos SDK and Tendermint consensus, and the initial couple of years of Terra were really built on development and building out Chai, which is a payment and e-wallet service in Korea, which really proved the concept of having payment rails run on blockchain and the value accretion that can come from that. But also over the past few months, we've released Mirror, which is the primitive of investments that we're building on, as well as Anchor, which is the primitive of savings that we're building on. So over the past few months, we've had just extraordinary growth. And if you look at the market cap of Terra as stablecoins, going back to the point of Terra being a primarily stablecoin business, our market cap went from nearly nothing to more than $2 billion in a matter of 6-7 months, right? So it's tremendous growth. And if you can consider everything that Terra has done so far as a proof of concept, or Terra version 1, the forward path and the Terra version 2 plan is to build an ecosystem, build a community of builders, and essentially to help make Terra stablecoins to be the most attractive to hold or the easiest to spend. So, when it comes to focus on what type of projects, it really spans, everything that essentially adds to these features that make our stablecoins the easiest to use. And the community may know some of these projects that are being built internally as well as externally, but they really span, a lot of different verticals. So I can go into them, but it looked like, John, that you were going to say something. So
I always have that look like I'm going to say something, but
okay.
I'm wondering just how does it work? So how does the UST stablecoin work relative to Luna, and how does that all come together? One of my biggest concerns with a lot of stablecoins is, do they really have those assets? And so I'm curious how Terra works to solve that.
Sure. So when you look at the whole stablecoin market, I would kind of break it up into 3 different approaches that other protocols have made. One is the fiat-backed or reserve-backed stablecoins. So these are what we say are more centralized stablecoins. So Tether and USDC being the primary examples, where to the extent they have reserves, they are backed by cash or cash equivalent securities. The secondary approach that we've seen people take is stablecoins that are backed by cryptocurrencies. DAI obviously being a good example of that, and oftentimes this entails over collateralization in being able to mint new DAI, as there is volatility in the collateral that backs the stability of that stablecoin. The third approach is the algorithmic stablecoin, and that's what the Terra stablecoins are built on top of. And there are various different approaches to it, but at the core for algorithmic stablecoins, they are really built with this kind of symbiotic relationship with the stablecoin and a secondary coin that weathers the short-term volatility in maintaining the peg. So built into kind of the on-chain logic of Terra and Luna, Luna is our governance and equity token. And to the extent that there's variation from the peg in our stablecoins, whether it be that UST, for instance, our US dollar peg stablecoin deviates upward from $1 or below $1, users can either burn Luna or mint Luna and capture that economic arbitrage. And what's powerful about that is it is, unlike the other 2 kind of approaches, much more scalable. It is capital efficient. And again, kind of this game theoretic way of maintaining the peg can be a huge value in terms of a stablecoin offering that is censorship resistant and permissionless. So I know I said a lot, but
No,
Yeah.
got it. Yeah, got it. I mean, so how often does it? So let's say that the stablecoin UST goes to $2.
Mhm.
How quickly does Luna react to that to get it back to $1?
Right away. I mean, we have we have users who are participating in these markets. We have market makers who may be participating in the market of maintaining the peg because, again, there's economic incentive to do so. So, we believe that economic incentives are one of the most powerful motivators for action. And we've seen very quick reversion to the parity value, if you will, from when there is any variance. But I would say for the most part, and I'm sure you've seen as well, Luna or Terra stablecoins have maintained their peg very well, so we're very proud of that. And if you look at the landscape of algorithmic stablecoins, it's actually a very hard feat to achieve actual scale and actual use. And we're the only algorithmic stablecoin that has scaled this much, and are very proud of kind of this commercial success we've had so far.
And like, so I'm trying to think through some of the more centralized stablecoins. What would happen if, say, Tether hit $3 and there was some regulatory issue that didn't let them get that capital they needed?
I mean,
what would happen?
Yeah, so our community asks for alpha all the time, and my being young alpha, I want to give a lot of details. But when you think about what we've achieved, again, I think that is alpha on its own. In the sense, there's a lot of risk in some of these centralized stablecoins, and I think over time, DeFi, if DeFi truly stands for decentralized finance, will appreciate the value that UST and other Terra stablecoins bring in being fully decentralized. We believe that decentralized finance cannot be built on centralized stablecoins, which, to your point, can be liable to censorship and are not permissionless. So, I think when you look at Tether or USDC, it's amazing what they've done. Their growth has really brought on this development of broader adoption of stablecoins and growth in DeFi. But I think over the kind of short to medium term or even long term vision of DeFi, it only makes sense that it would work with a truly decentralized stablecoin, which is what we've created. I don't want to kind of create FUD by any means, but like if you look at the holdings of some of these centralized stablecoins as well, and even the crypto collateralized stablecoins, given that DAI is more than half backed by USDC, a lot of the holdings are in not necessarily cash, but cash-like instruments. And my background, having kind of been a fixed income trader and portfolio manager, I'm very familiar with these markets. And back last March at the height of COVID and volatility in the markets, there were times when prime money market funds, which are credit money market funds that primarily invest in commercial paper, certificates of deposit, were unable to handle some of the withdrawals on their funds. So I think to the extent that the Federal Reserve Bank was a day or two late from introducing their money market liquidity facility back in March, there could have been serious implications on the broader front-end credit markets. And I don't know, if I were Tether or USDC, I would definitely diversify some of the holdings into safer assets like treasury bills and not have some of that credit risk embedded in their reserves. But sorry for the digression. I'm just
that's not a digression at all.
Yeah, no, it's a great explanation, and it's like, when you even think about the U.S. banks, right? And it's like when the financial crisis happened, it's like reserve requirements move up, right? And they're going through these stress tests, which they're still doing today, right? And then COVID happens, and reserve requirements for banks go to zero, right? They literally need zero of the dollars on hand, and so everyone. They do freak out about, something like Tether or something like USDC, where they're like, oh, they only have 75% of cash and cash equivalents on hand. It's like, well, it's slightly better than zero.
Yeah.
But at the same time, with what you guys are doing, I like that. And Tauntaun says it here, anyone can help, right? That's kind of this main piece of that, which is like you said, there still has to be market makers and large firms that are in there providing liquidity, creating the market. But by allowing like that's the whole point of crypto, is democratizing opportunity, right? And so you're just taking like this step all the way forward to say, how do you decentralize this? How do you share in that kind of alpha, right? On that side of this market that like drives a huge part of the world, right? Just liquidity and being able to move money around.
Totally.
So it's really impressive, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited about it for sure.
Yeah, super cool.
I'm curious. I'm still stuck on like, if I'm a Tether or USDC and the market moves 24/7, 365, it has huge spikes and dips and this and that all the time. How are they moving fast enough to have enough reserves to meet the market need? Is there something that they're doing to maintain that? Like, it just blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, I would think that like some of these, I don't know the inner workings of Tether and USDC, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the teams within these organizations are like more active in trading than like a typical traditional bank, right? Or a money market fund even. Like you look at, again, I'm just going to nerd out a little bit here, but if you look at the overall size of the shadow bank industry or money market funds, there's $4.5 trillion worth of liquidity being held in global money market funds. And only like 10% of that is in prime money market funds or credit money market funds. So, and about half of that is in institutional prime funds, which are, you know, fast money, right? So if you consider the scale of Tether and USDC, and you assume that more than half of what they're holding is these commercial papers or certificates of deposits, like they actually own quite a big chunk, like let's say 20% of all commercial paper that may be traded at the moment. So they may be, you know, very active traders in response to your question. And again, you know, I hope that they diversify away from some of that into more safer assets, as, you know, with the Fed coming in with some of these liquidity facilities that had been in existence for the past year, there's really not that much that you're getting paid on. So, you know, like 3-month treasury bills may be printing 5, 6, 7 basis points. 3-month commercial paper probably trades in the low teens. So you're getting paid 3 to 4 basis points more to take on much more liquidity risk and market risk. So, you know, I think at least like from a participant in DeFi in general, I would love to see more diversification into safer assets. You know, like one other data point that I'll share is back when I was still in finance and, you know, more active trader, I remember during COVID, we had to sell 1-year Marriott bond. And this was, you know, during the height of COVID.
Oh my God.
1 year, you know, triple B corporate credit traded at 85 cents on the dollar. So you can imagine, like, without Fed support, some of the market mechanics and liquidity was really dried up. And in a black swan event, you know, having centralized stablecoins have so much exposure to that is not necessarily healthy. So sorry for the digression, but I hope that they did.
But I mean, you just explained there, like, what's the only backstop to all of that, right? Which is what we saw, like trillions of dollars being created. So it's like when you have that arbitrage or that, you know, that failure in the system, there's only one option, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter how the money gets in the system, whether it's overnight repos or whether it's giving it directly to people or whatever it may be. But they were just, you know, pushing money into the system. But I think right now, a lot of the banks have this carrying cost and they want to get it off their balance sheet. Right. And so it's like, now it's coming back the other way. And it's like, wait a minute, like, you know, maybe we didn't need that, right? Maybe it was overkill, but I think it's a great example and explanation for why, like, algorithmically and sharing across the risk makes a heck of a lot of sense. You know, and it's like, it's the next progression in this market.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, I would say for Terra specifically, I think part of our success has been that we've created real demand for our stablecoins. So as I alluded to before, we had Chai, which was a proof of concept of what payments can do on the blockchain being used as rails. But through Mirror and Anchor, which is our, you know, investments protocol powered by synthetic assets, as well as our savings protocol, we've really created market demand for our stablecoins. So I think that to the extent that additional interesting projects come onto the Terra ecosystem, the stability of the peg for UST or our other stablecoins will be pretty resilient, and we're very excited for that too.
On that
Awesome.
note, I would love to talk about synthetic assets a little bit. In fact, I want to share my screen a little bit here for just a moment
Tell me when you're ready.
because they're
There you
ready.
go.
This
Oh, there you
blew our
go.
team's so this blew our team's mind last night. We were going through some of the just the ecosystem that Terra has around it, and we were like, wait a second, M Apple, AMC,
Yeah.
M Coin, like M Tesla, going from Binance Smart Chain to Terra. It's just like, wait a minute, like from blockchain to blockchain, a synthetic stock that's not trading all the time. Wow, like super crazy. Tell us about some of these synthetic assets and how they work, how they came about. How does this all come together?
Yeah, I want to say, again, like going back to the initial protocols that Terra launched with, we really wanted to build on the core primitives of the financial stack. So Chai and our stablecoins power our payments kind of primitive. And Mirror, what you were alluding to, is our investments primitive. And we felt that the best way and the best user experience would come from having synthetic assets that are traded on-chain and cross-chain, and that can quote unquote mirror or follow the real world price movements of some of these securities. What's super exciting about what Mirror has accomplished is, this kind of totally free way and permissionless way of getting access to some of the best investment opportunities in the world. Like, I think we take for granted, you guys being in Cali and my being in New York, being able to buy Airbnb or Apple or Tesla, stock is very easy. But if you look at the data and the traffic from which Mirror derives a lot of its volume, you'd be surprised because it's not necessarily the largest financial kind of markets. So sure, like the US may be the first in terms of traffic, but second on that and third on that and fourth on that list are, let's say, countries in Southeast Asia or in Eastern Europe who otherwise, because of capital controls and other reasons, can't access these markets. And I think the way that we've been able to design Mirror to be this truly composable and really permissionless DeFi application is just a testament to our ethos of building for real world use, and something that we're excited to see kind of further implementations on. Obviously, Mirror version 2 launched recently, and Mirror is definitely one of our protocols that are much more community driven. So, love to see community engagement continue the further advancements of Mirror as well.
I have a question about the synthetic assets, and yeah, we were checking it out online yesterday. It was really cool. I mean, how do you? It's like, do you need some sort of permission to create a synthetic asset across, like something like a Tesla or something like an AMC? Do they, like, in the after hours? It's like, are they trading based on like pre-market and like aftermarket trading, or is it like kind of have some like interesting price discovery there for like the market that's trading on that asset to try and kind of match what's the next day? Like just a couple of pieces there.
Yeah, so it's more the latter. So, during market hours, we have oracles. So the price of our synthetic assets are kind of pegged to those oracles. But during off hours, and given that mirrored assets trade 24/7, there can be some interesting price variations and, maybe even opportunities to take advantage of that too. So we have seen instances where like an Apple or a Tesla over the weekend may, from the Friday close price, vary by 1 or 2 or even 3 percentage points and reset on Monday if Monday opens exactly where Friday closed, or reset higher to the extent that there was some news over the weekend and opening markets on Monday are higher as well. So we let the market do its job on when Oracle data is not available, but for the majority of the time when markets are open, it follows the Oracle price feeds.
No, that makes sense, and it's a lot of it's a fun. It's kind of like that fun in between period where a lot of people didn't also have access to invest in. Earnings reports come out like post market close and everything. Right. Some fun volatility there, I think, for some traders. But just kind of the first part of the question with like, can you create these assets, but can they be traded anywhere? Could they be traded, like, could an exchange like pick some of these up? Does it have to be DeFi oriented? Like, I know like FTX has some of these assets too that are traded. It's like, how does that work from like a permissions base with like those companies?
Yeah, so we've we've worked with, for instance, PancakeSwap, or we've built our own bridge to have connectivity to BSC and to ETH or Ethereum. We have other kind of initiatives that are coming cross-chain. So Wormhole will have connectivity to Solana. There's definitely, I wouldn't say it's permission, but it's more partnership-driven to have connectivity, given that it's different teams working on different dev stacks. But ultimately, like, our vision for Mirror is, and overall for Terra and our stablecoins, is that it's accessible anywhere, and that hopefully it powers the future of DeFi, not just on the Terra chain, but in any level layer one chain. So we're excited about that. And the timing of when Mirror launched is interesting too, because it was in the height of like the GameStop fiasco and Wall Street bets towards the end of last year. And it was more strategic in our approach, as well, as we felt that it didn't make any sense that you can't trade some of these securities in centralized exchanges or brokers. And we wanted to create a solution for it. So I think that was helpful in our gaining market adoption. And again, like seeing some of the sources of traffic for Mirror, it's truly like a good testament to our finding product market fit. So we're proud of that.
It also makes sense when we look at the correlation of your price movement to social activity. And when we look at how much it's increased over the last year, you guys latched right onto that. We saw a similar trend on our side. So it's like when you latch onto that community, they don't stop. So it's pretty exciting. There's a question from the community on here from Jonathan Cornish. I think this does relate to some of the synthetic assets. Like, do you think the biggest threat to Terra's stablecoins will be regulations? Obviously, this is about the stablecoins, but is it legal to do these synthetic assets? Is there anything against it? What does the market look like for that? What does the regulation look like?
Yeah, so I just want to start by saying, like, I know that we have like a fun Twitter profile and our character on Twitter as well, but at the core of it, we don't take regulations lightly. And like, as part of our building out Chai, like, we were very close, and we know kind of in depth what different types of regulations, control, licenses and such, particularly to Korea, because Chai was built on Korea, but also in other nations as well. So, we don't take regulations lightly. At the same time, we want to make sure that we provide like value to users and solve some of the problems that exist in traditional finance and centralized finance. So, we will keep innovating. And I think regulators currently around the globe are trying to figure out a game plan of their own, right? Like, some of the growth in crypto more recently has, I think, caught them off guard in some sense, despite the fact that it's been in development for many years. So, long story short, we will be attentive to what comes out in terms of regulations. I think for us, we are not necessarily isolated in terms of the risk. Just like we talked about earlier, I think centralized stablecoins, for instance, have similar level of regulatory risk as anything that Terra creates. So it's something that we're monitoring, that we don't take lightly, but also that won't necessarily impede us from continuing to innovate and build in what we're doing.
Very cool. Yeah, and you're proving it by coming on here and also basing yourself in New York, which is probably one of the harder regulatory landscapes, in the world when it comes to crypto.
Maybe I'm not in New York. Who knows? Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Cool, John. I know you got a couple more here on product and it like product like ecosystem makeup and some of the other projects that are being built on there. Is there anything that's out there right now that's kind of exciting you that people are building that you've seen? I mean, if you don't want to give out specific names, but is there kind of like a direction of something fun that you're seeing built?
Yeah, I mean, I could probably spend a lot of time on this, right? Because there's probably a list of a few dozen projects that are currently working and building on Terra. So I would say internally to Terra and some of the internal projects that we're incubating, I'm sure the community is aware of the launch that we had with Pylon, which is like a yield-powered IDO or a launchpad. And version 2 and version 3 or further integrations of Pylon will enable users to monetize future yield and what's provided in Anchor. So that's something that the launch was very successful on. As for other projects, we have Nebula, which is our protocol that is built on a new type of ETFs or new type of investments that are built on clusters, which are dynamically rebalanced assets on kind of weighting methodologies and asset composition. So we're super excited about that, and that should be launching in, I want to say, a couple weeks, probably by or before the end of the month. And then another internal project that we're working on that should be launching soon is called Valkyrie, which is bringing this idea of, and I'm sure this probably you guys would appreciate a lot of, bringing the idea of social referrals and marketing on chain, and unlocking a lot of the value that can be had of having user data on chain, as well as being able to incentivize further kind of user desired actions with tokenomics. So we're excited about that too. In terms of external projects, there's just so much. I think the community is very familiar with Alice and Cash and Catapult and Tick, Astro Money, which are all like these fiat on-off ramps, kind of inspired by what Chai has done in Korea, that will allow users to more easily spend UST or the equivalent stablecoin in their regions and use it in real-world use cases. We also have projects like SPAR, which may integrate well with Nebula and with mirrored assets, which are like a fund management protocol. We have Angel, which is like a philanthropic angle in which users can give once, and powered by Anchor's yield, you can give in perpetuity. We have a project more recently launched called Prism, which essentially builds like the interest rate swaps and FX swaps market on chain, and has really interesting parameters of decomposability and essentially creating more capital efficiency in DeFi. So there's a lot.
And everything has a kick-ass name too. You guys do a good job. Good job with that. Valkyrie and Spar.
Yeah.
Angel. Is that that social referral piece you were talking about? Is that kind of an iteration of? I saw something called BuzzLink out there.
Right.
Is it an iteration of that?
Yeah, it is. It is. So some of the core team members of Valkyrie are BuzzLink team members, and what we're very excited about is essentially scaling the whole referral schema. So typically referrals stop at the immediate conversion, but with Valkyrie we extend that to like the third layer. So if I refer something to you, Joe, and then you refer to John, and all three of us participate, I can kind of get the reward from John's participation.
Right.
But ultimately, for like version 2 or 3, we want that to be kind of endless. And when you do that, you kind of get into a very interesting area in which you can potentially even securitize some of the passive cash flow that can come from participation in Valkyrie as a user. And then, this is more kind of out of left field, but to the extent that users want to share their data, it can even provide like a data as a service, like product for merchants and campaign providers. So we're excited about that too.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that kind of winds together with like across different platforms and referrals.
Right.
And if you want to say tap here to get paid, $100 a month for your data, like I could see people doing that for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. What was the name of that platform for the donations in perpetuity that you were mentioning?
Angel. Yeah, Angel.
Angel. It's a great idea. It's almost like I keep thinking, a lot of foundations out there are asking for donations, and it's one and done.
Right.
And some of them have these credit card donations, and it's still weird. It doesn't work right.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing all this staking and DeFi and yield farming, and I'm like, man, if there was a way to just give that constantly to your charity, I love that. That's a really big one. Tell us more about that. How's that going to work?
So I see Chauncey like in the chat. So he's actually the founder, and he can probably talk more about it. But essentially, it's another project. Yeah, it's another project that we didn't develop at all. It was more. I think the story behind Angel is super interesting because I think, and Chauncey can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I think he just tweeted the idea as we had our first hackathon in partnership with IDEO Ventures and Delphi Digital, and I think Chauncey just tweeted the idea out, and Doe said, "Yeah, that sounds great, build it." So Chauncey joined the hackathon, had like huge community partnership, and quit his job, and is working on this full time with a team. And it's just an amazing story of how vibrant this community is. And like, we don't pay for any marketing, right? Like especially those, like, not the type to do that, and we don't have any interest in doing that. But I think our community members see the value that we bring as a truly permissionless, decentralized protocol or a blockchain, and have conviction in that and are part of the journey with us. So that really is what gets us going.
Yeah, Chauncey, if you want to come up on here, send me a DM on Twitter. It's okay if you're in your pajamas.
Yeah, even better. To switch gears just a little, I was noticing on Anchor Protocol, in the app, in the web app, there's a link in there that says get insurance coverage.
Yeah.
And there's a link to Nexus Mutual and InsureAce.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, one thing that we hear a lot of is, especially with newcomers coming into DeFi, is they're scared. They don't have trust in whatever it is they're using. There's the UX side of it where it's difficult to use. Just the mechanics of how DeFi works is new to a lot of people. But the security is another. And I'd wonder your thoughts on how did that link get in there? What kind of demand did you hear? Where do you see the role of insurance in this space, in DeFi?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be quite compelling. So, going back to my background, I having traded in fixed income, like, anything where you can get a handle on an interest rate is compelling, right? Like, Europe and Japan are at negative rates. Here we're at like 0 rate environment. So to the extent that you can generate 20% yield, it's super attractive. But to the extent that, that exposes you to some smart contract risk and you want insurance on it, and post insurance, you can get 15%. It's still a heck of a deal. So we introduced some of these partnerships with, for instance, Nexus Mutual, so that more traditional investors and institutions can have more peace of mind around having exposure to distributed ledgers and some of the technologies behind blockchain. And we're hopeful that leads to conversion of some of these institutions using Anchor. We're very excited about like Anchor's forward path. So we brought on Matt Cantieri, who is GM, if you will, general manager for Anchor. And prior to joining Terra, he spent, I think, like 5 years at Microsoft as heading kind of the blockchain investments within M12. So, he's a huge add for our team, and he's literally just in conversation with institutions all day, whether it be traditional private wealth managers or asset managers or other money managers who are able to kind of benefit a lot from a high yield such as what Anchor's providing. And some of the feedback he's gotten is obviously, sure, this is all great. I don't know what risk I face. Like, do you have insurance on your products? So, we've introduced some of these insurance partnerships. Internally, we're also working on Ozone, which is another kind of algorithmic insurance that we're going to provide on top of Terra applications. But we do think that over time, like, some of these solutions to mitigate any smart contract risk will be a value add. And yeah, like, overall, in terms of institutions adopting the technology, I think we are definitely at an inflection point. So,
also another kick-ass name, Ozone.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, like, I think towards the end of last year, like, JP Morgan announced like the JPM coin and settling transactions on the blockchain. Towards the end of my career at a similar bank, there were talks internally of further adopting this technology. And as you know, like, once those conversations happen, and when it's truly the largest banks in the world looking at these technologies, capital flows follow that. So I think we're at a very, very pivotal moment in terms of the mass adoption of blockchain and of what cryptocurrencies bring, and are super happy to be part of that and provide insurance to the extent that that provides them peace of mind.
Cool.
Do you think, I guess as a follow-up, do you see, because like insurers are all about risk, and how does the security side of that play into them insuring a DeFi application? Are they running audits on the smart contracts, or are they working with other third parties to do those audits?
Sorry, do you mean for insurers or Nexus Mutual?
Yeah, so there's a certain rate for insurance, and that's based upon the risk that insurer takes on. And so when they're DeFiing when they're insuring a certain DeFi application, what exactly is that process that they're doing?
Yeah, it's more like it's more market driven too. So there's definitely, I think when we first announced this partnership, the rate was closer to high single digits, and it's really come down as participants got more familiar with any risk associated with our smart contracts, have looked at our code, have seen that we've been audited, have seen kind of the scale of Anchor as well. So there's definitely a market risk component to the pricing of these contracts. And we expect over time that to continue to come down and make insurance an attractive option too.
Love it. I think it's great. I think it's such a great thing for all of the newcomers into DeFi to help them. I mean, I hope it gets to a point where they can check a box and say, yes, I want to give 2 or 3% of my money away, but sleep at night.
Yeah.
So we do have Chauncey backstage to get. We're gonna give him 3 minutes here.
Perfect.
Chauncey, what's up?
What's up, Chauncey?
Hey.
Hey.
Life, man. It's been on such a trip.
No, cool, man. Thanks for popping up. I want to bring you up
here. Thank you so much for having me on. Just want to make sure that I can hear you right now.
Yes.
Yeah, all good.
Can you hear us? We can definitely hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I don't want to slow anyone down with technical difficulties. I'll figure that out on my side as I kind of talk here, if that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you.
I think I have to watch on YouTube, which is a little bit of delay.
Yeah, I would close. Okay. I would definitely close the YouTube.
So yeah, the whole journey has been really a trip. The whole Terra family has been amazing. The founders, the actual community themselves have all been great.
You're good. Give us like another 30 seconds. Just tell us why you love Terra and how great SJ is.
Let's see. Audio. Yeah, I'm not sure why I can't hear in the actual StreamYard, only in the YouTube.
Hit the cam/mic button on the bottom there, and then click audio and make sure that it's set to your headphones.
So I guess if it works, I'll just monologue here for a minute then, maybe? Okay. So yeah, just the whole thing has been great. Terra community, I can't say enough. It's great building on here. I really came into it fairly, I was new to crypto as of the end of last year. Got into the Terra ecosystem, started evangelizing to friends and family just because it was this amazing opportunity, and it really clicked for me how DeFi was really changing the world. And TeFi in particular, with Terra's focus on outward mainstream adoption, it's just something that clicked and made sense to my friends and family. I'm like, hey, look at this Chai payment app in Korea that's being used by all these people. And I saw all these benefits, especially when Anchor came out, wanting to have people move their savings into Anchor, do different things like that. And the barrier to entry was still so high for many people, and it took me so long to really understand the space to be able to communicate it to others, that I got to thinking, what would be the best way to abstract away that DeFi complexity for the people who need it most? Not only my friends and family, but rather these nonprofits and charities around the world who often don't have means to the same financial ends that a lot of other people do. So the majority of charities are operating paycheck to paycheck effectively. They can't really cover their operating expenses out for 6 months, much less a year. So the ability to create sustainable funding mechanisms for them is very significant. And even access to endowments as a financial primitive is something that most charities do not actually have access to. It's really something kind of similar to wealth inequality for your average person. There's some wealth financial tools that are available if you're in the upper tier, not so much in the smaller tier. So, Harvard can have an endowment that holds Bitcoin, but your typical charity down the street from you that's trying to support and really does a lot of the work that we see in the communities, they don't have access to those same tools. So Angel Protocol provides a platform where you can connect from donors to charities directly, and then use yield like Anchor to create perpetual endowments. So someone donates, it goes into an endowment account, and then that will actually pay out 75% of the yield to the charity throughout the year, withhold 25% of the yield to grow the actual endowment principal. So literally any donation you make becomes a donation that grows in perpetuity forever. So you give once, give forever. Really just tapping into fairly simple concepts, but these elegant tools that the Terra ecosystem is built on. And finally, just to come back to the whole point of the Terra family and the Builder family, the Terra Charity Alliance is something I want to highlight is just very significant for Terra overall. There are 20 protocols and validators now signed up for the Terra Charity Giving Pledge. So they've committed at least 1% of their revenue to Angel Protocol charities as just part of their regular operating rhythm. So charity is literally being coded into the smart contract DNA of Terra, which I think is just very, very huge. And Loop actually, who is launching, I believe, next month on Terra, they committed to providing 10% of their entire token generation event, locking that up in staking, and sending that yield to Angel Protocol charities in its entirety, which just I think is beyond a generous show and really just says a lot about the Terra community as a whole. So I'll stop there.
If you can hear us, great work, my man. Thank you so much.
Love it.
That was really cool. Anyone that quit their job and is joining Web3 and decides to work in charity gets 5 minutes on this show. So
For sure. Did you guys ever have that, like an impromptu appearance from a
that might be one of the early ones we had? I don't know. I don't know if we've actually like done it mid-show like that before, but that worked.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
We've done some other ones too, like Twitter Spaces, where it's just completely random the entire time, and it's very, very interesting. You don't know who's coming up, and it's a lot of fun. So we've
Yeah, no, but I just want to say, like, what Chauncey highlighted is so true, and like I think what you guys have on your side as well, like without community there is no crypto, and I really feel like that's a true testament to, or what Chauncey said is a true testament to the DNA of Terra, right? Like just the strength and the vibrancy of our protocols and the way that they work together has been something that we're super excited about. And yeah, I forgot to mention the Terra Charity Alliance, but that's something that's super cool too that I don't think any other chain is doing. So hopefully you guys keep track of that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I like, it's just kind of like the foresight of building something cool, utilizing it, you know, for kind of like evangelizing, not only just what you're working on, but what other folks are working on, and kind of giving back is important.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, man. Well, I know, John, if you want a couple more, we're coming up on time here, but start winding it.
Just in general, like, you know, what should the community be looking forward to with Terra? What does the next 6 to 12 months look like?
Yeah, so that's what we're really excited about, which is, again, like this idea of Terra version 2. So, you know, I talked to some of the OG Terra employees, if you will, like the guys who have been part of Terra since its genesis. And, you know, some of them remark about how different Terra is now versus 3 months ago. And I think, you know, part of that is because of this proactive initiative and push to have Terra not just be this internal organization, but really this thriving ecosystem of builders and projects that are being built on the Terra blockchain. So, you know, I would say over the next 6 to 12 months, expect to see dozens of projects come on board. Expect to see, you know, our stablecoins be more cross-chain than even it is now. You know, we have made hires like Will Yu, for instance, who's our new ecosystem development lead, who's going to be taking a very proactive approach of inviting builders, making it easier for builders to build, hosting whether it be internal hackathons or, you know, our BD lead, Jeff Kwan, who's thinking about ways in which we can provide more funding to our ecosystem partner or our ecosystem. And obviously like people like Matt and myself, and also just, everybody who's been at Terra so far. I think we're all excited about the future of Terra as a truly decentralized ecosystem. So just be on the lookout for us, and really the community. I think what you guys have created at LunarCRUSH is probably the best way to do that. And like you alluded to earlier, like I think it's awesome that our main account is not in the top 5, right, of quote unquote influencers or accounts that have Terra mentions. So I would expect that we fall out. Our main account falls off from the top 10 over the next 6 months as more lunatics join and are participating in the development of our ecosystem.
Awesome. Well, congratulations with all that success. And whenever there's a community that brands themselves, right, like lunatics, like, you know, you're onto something special.
Yeah, exactly.
So no, man, SJ, man, really appreciate you coming on, and, you know, teaching our audience and teaching us a little bit about what you guys are working on. Everything's super impressive, from the ecosystem to the stable coins to being in the industry early to working on charities to giving people, you know, giving more than you're taking. So really amazing work, and I'm excited to kind of follow you guys and see how this all turns out. Awesome. Likewise, I'd love to be back with, you know, maybe another ecosystem partner or builder making an impromptu appearance. So absolutely. In touch. Well, cool. Well, everyone in the audience, thank you so much for listening. John, as always, and we'll chat with you guys backstage here. Thank you.